Hi, Steven Shagrin here, better known as Shags, one of the charter members of the club and also membership chair, as well as the paella master. Today we're going to learn something about cooking because I love to cook. That's one of my passions. Fitting that it's going to be coming up maybe this coming week, maybe 2 weeks from now, but we'll just be coming off the Gilroy Garlic Festival. In fact, let me look at that. That's the 38th annual Gilroy Garlic Festival here in Gilroy, California. I'm in Walnut Creek, about an hour and a half away. Definitely worth the trip. Been there 3 times, but it's just so hot and smelly, but a good smell. Now, how many of you have heard of spring garlic or green garlic? It's really the same as regular garlic. It's just that they harvest it while it's still a shoot at various stages of it being a shoot before it starts to split into the separate bulbs or separate cloves, as they're called. And then they would normally trim it and dry it, or maybe not trim it and dry it, depends on how they do it. Some of them grate it. But if you catch it before they do that, you can use the entire plant. And I'm going to show you what I have done. So let me share the screen. There we are. First of all, the Gilroy Garlic Festival. I think that's a great thing that you can go to. They have that big flare-up going on at their pit, the garlic pit. The big garlic guy who's moving around. We've met him before, or whoever's inside. And as you can see, it's all sorts of fun for a great summer food festival. They even have garlic ice cream, and that is a real treat. If you want to learn a little bit more about stuff, here's a great place. It is Green Garlic Recipes, what it is and how to cook it. This is on the Huffington Post. And I think I might have closed that other one out, but it was a good one as well on, oh, no, that's still the Huffington Post. Scratch that. So what we're going to look at is a little bit of a slideshow. This is a spring garlic. I didn't take this photo, but I could have. This is when it's really, really young. You can see that at the bottom here, it's almost like a clove, a spring onion. So you'll see them in small batches like this. Normally it'll be maybe $2, $3 a bunch, or if it's $3 a bunch, often you'll get 3 for $5, or 2 each, 2 each or 3 for $5. That's typically how it goes. And you can use the entire plant except for these little root things, unless you line them up on a plate and make a little garlic root henge. It's kind of cute. So here's what it looks like when I got it home. So by the way, again, these are not mine. I got those from Pinterest, fair disclosure. So here's a batch I took home a while ago, and you can see here, I can put this up a little bit. You can see here that the bulbs are trimmed down now. I took the bottoms off. I always wash it first. And then I also take the tops. Now, I'll discard the ones or pieces of these that were really brown and ugly, but otherwise I'll use the rest of it, as you will see. So here's another close-up of those. You want to make sure you have a nice sharp knife. And you see I've taken these all the way down here because I'll eventually use these little stubs too, and add them to the other tops. But it just gives you more to hold on to because I use a mandolin to slice this down. Later in the season, you can see how the bulbs are starting to develop. And as they do, or the cloves rather, in the bulb are developing. And as they do, you can still use the entire plant. Now, some of the outer husk is a little rough, so you can pull that off. But otherwise, chop it up and saute it. It's absolutely fantastic. You can saute all of this stuff up here. Some of the greens, what you can do is take those in a clump, drizzle them with olive oil, and maybe a little bit of sea salt, pepper, wrap it up in aluminum foil, throw it on the grill while you're cooking, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and it will just sort of melt into this garlicky goo that you can smear on bread or put on the side, and or add into a pot of greens. Just don't waste it. It's really good stuff. Later in the season, they're getting pretty big. I've even gotten some that are starting to get red or purple on the outside. When that happens, they're really getting mature. You can actually take the head and stick it in the fridge and then cut into it as you need it. Just cut around the clove and get into that husk. So it's not dried paper thin like you'd normally see it, and what comes out of there is opalescent. You'll see. So I got out the mandolin. You have to be very careful. Make sure you wear protective gloves. I have taken off the tip of a finger before, and don't want to do that. That was doing hot pepper, so it really was comfortable, let me tell you. So you can see I break it down into the white part and the green part and mix it together. And I'll put it on a sheet and then stick that in the freezer to flash freeze it. And then when it comes out of the freezer, there's a nice mix. You can see this is from later in the year and some of it's getting purple. Here's a little different batch. This year I put up 4.5 pounds. I'm not going to run out of this stuff all year round. 4.5 pounds bag just like this, about a pound, pound and a quarter each. And I pull out some, put it in from the big bag, keep it in the, you got to keep it triple wrap, maybe quarter wrap. It stinks. And sometimes the ice cream will smell a little bit garlicky, but it's all good if you love garlic. Anyway, back to this. So you keep some in the main freezer. If you have a big freezer, keep this stuff in there. It'll stay fresh for a year at least. Here's some that came out of the freezer just for a photograph, and you can see how much I put away this year. So back to this stuff, the tops. Well, I clean them off. I lay them on aluminum foil on trays. I stick them in the oven where the oven is just on warm. Then you stick a wooden stick or a plastic stick in the oven door. When it's on warm, it's not going to melt it or set it on fire. Just to vent it a bit. And when you're done, you get the garlic that looks like this. The tops are nicely dried. They're crispy. They bend when they snap when you bend them. That's when you know they're done. It may take 8 hours, 9 hours. You may have to turn them. You don't have to weed some out. You play it by ear. You know your oven. You want to do it about mid to top of the oven. The house will smell like a pizzeria. Woo! It is fantastic. But so you make sure you're not going to have company or that nobody that's allergic to garlic's in the house because it smells great. So what do you do with this stuff when it's dried up? Well, what I do is I grind it. This is not a really good picture. Sorry about that image. Should have used the flash, but you can see that I use a Cuisinart and I get it pretty fine. This is stuff that's not so fine, but I have stuff that's even more. It's a powder, and I put this in a shaker, and I put it in all sorts of recipes. I'm making a lot of breads now, mostly dinner rolls or hot dogs, hamburgers, sandwiches, and also small Italian loaves, because we found we're wasting so much bread when we go to the store, and it's even not as good, and it's so much fun to make. I'll substitute maybe 1/8 to 1/4 cup of this in place of flour, and it gets a nice little green tinge, and the garlic flavor is amazing. All right, so let's jump ahead. Sorry about that. But this is extra toasted. It is the sliced dried garlic tops, green garlic tops, and fantastic stuff. Those of you that have had my cooking recently, the installation celebration, and or promotion and depromotion, however you want to say, the salad I made had this, and it had fresh green garlic in it. Now, I mentioned taking those cloves, and you can put the heads, you can take the heads of garlic that are starting to develop the cloves around them, and you can tell when you slice into it because you're starting to see them develop, and it's very obvious from some of these slices here. Now, let me get a better one. Here we go. Oops. From here, that they're starting to break into the little segments. So it's a beautiful thing as you're going through the season. And that's the other thing. Season's very short. Late March to early May. After that, they've gone to harvest. They're big. They're like this. So they get developed even more. They get dried and processed and shipped, and you buy stuff like this. What I do is I take these heads and I roast them. Little drizzled olive oil on it, no salt, no pepper, just the olive oil, and cover it 450 in the oven for about 20, 30 minutes or until the house, again, smells like a pizzeria. And then here's another version. These were a little bit younger, and this is what they look like if you keep them in the fridge. So what you do with these, you can squeeze them out and smear it on bread. You can put it into recipes, anything that you would use a garlic smear, a garlic schmear. This is fantastic. Beauty is if you can freeze them, and when you put them in a little cup, microwave it, paper towel over top, and as they defrost, it squeezes them out. And I just can't tell you how beautiful they taste. And then finally, here's the leftover cloves that I said, these heads are too beautiful to roast. They're big. I'm going to break them down and use them over time. And right now, I'm down to my last one, which I think was this one. One of them I cut open, as you can see, as I said before, the husk is still moist. It's getting tough, and you have to peel it back, and all the surrounding husk around this, the cloves are starting to separate. So they've separated, so you have to peel that away with your nail or a little knife, and you end up with these beautiful pearls of garlic. Ooh, doesn't that look good? And so I think that's pretty much it. Oh, this was just another shot of the mandolin. I guess I didn't rename it afterwards. So again, I just want to zoom in on what some of this looks like as it's coming out. All different kinds, and little pieces pop out. It's all good. You can chop this up, or you can leave it whole. I throw a handful of this stuff over vegetables as they're roasting, and potatoes when they're roasting. Anything that calls for fresh garlic, I'll use green garlic. Maybe throw in a little fresh as well. Depends on how strong you want it. These nubs back here, let me go back to full size again. These little things, I'll put these in a Ziploc bag, and then while the stuff's in the freezer, in between the times I go to the farmer's market, because I only do this maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks during season, 4 times during the season. But these things stay fresh, and I just cut them down and throw them in as fresh until we get to that time where it's out of season. Now I start have to using my frozen stuff. So that gets you through it. Now the last thing, and this is not my photo, again from Pinterest, this is called the Scape. If you grow garlic at home, and it's very easy to do, if you leave it sit out too long, it starts to sprout. Take the sprout, put the root in the other side in the ground with the green stuff going up, and you're good to go. It's got to have good soil, read up on it. Growing it's a whole nother trip. If you do let it grow and you want to harvest the bulbs later when they're really big, and that's fine, just plant enough so you get it all during the season. These things that come up from the top, they form a flower. You can see here, it's a very small little bud, and this whole thing down into the plant is called the Scape, S-C-A-P-E. You can use every part of the Scape. It's mild, and it's garlicky, and wonderful. You can get the Scapes early like this, or when you get them later in the season, this thing has developed into a really big bud, and they look like they're seeds ready to go, and if you pick it at the right time, you can chop those up, and they are little itty-bitty garlic buds. Absolutely wonderful. You got the cloves at the one end, you've got the buds at the other. Fantastic in recipes, and I can never, ever find them. I think chefs are buying up Scapes because the only place I've seen them is on recipes. I need to know if there's anybody out there that wants to grow garlic for me so that we can go into business and start packaging this dried stuff and pickled Scapes and pickled garlic, green garlic. It would be an amazing adventure. So that's what I have to share with you today. Stop the share, come back and say thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if it's too long, but I'd try.